Hi guys, good morning. Welcome back to my channel. In today's session, I'll be continuing the discussion that we started on case types. If you're new to my channel and if you have not seen my previous video, that is a part one of the case type discussion, I'm posting the link on your screen. I would request you to first go and see the part one and then come back to this video so that you'll be able to get the maximum out of today's session. Okay, so let me log in into the application. Let me switch back to Dev Studio. Let me open the case type that we created. Okay, so if you see, yesterday I explained you about the stages that will be present in this particular training case type. So I try to break down the stages as enrollments, evaluation, delivery, and resolution. I have also added some placeholder steps and processes in each of these three primary stages, which I'll be explaining now. Okay, so just a refresher of what this use case is or what this requirement is. So we are trying to build an application which will provide trainings on different topics, and students can enroll in these trainings. Once they enroll successfully, they can choose that which training they would like to be a part of. Then the case would move to the evaluation stage, wherein there will be a set of team or a group of users who will be reviewing these enrollments that has come in and either approve or reject them. Then in the next stage, the training will actually be conducted. So this would be an offline process, and in Pega, our case would just wait for the training to be completed. So for that, I have made use of the wait shape. So I'll be just jumping into the details in a bit, but once the training is completed, there will be certificates that will be emailed to the candidates who have taken part. So that is the end-to-end requirement that we are trying to implement. Okay, now let's try to dig down deeper into each of these stages, and let's try to see what kind of steps and processes I have placed it over here. So I have not built the complete thing. These are just the placeholder steps that I have added in the case lifecycle, in the case designer itself. We will go back to the backend part of it and we'll see the rules that gets created. So the first stage that we see here is the enrollment. So in this, there is a process or a flow called submit enrollment. So if you want, you can open the process from here. So this will be the flow rule. So in this flow rule, we can see there are two assignments. So this green color box that you see, this is called assignment in Pega. This circle is the start shape and this is the end shape. If you want to add a new shape in any flow, you can right click. You can click on add and you will see the variety of shapes that you can add. Assignment shape is the one that I have added. It will take a flow action in a section. If you want to make any kind of decision, like if you want to move or bifurcate to different parts in your flow based on some when rule or some Boolean expression, so then in those cases, we use the decision shape. Next shape that we see over here is the sub-process. So from one flow, if you want to call another flow, then you can go ahead and use this sub-process shape, and in that you need to provide the flow name, the sub-flow basically. Another shape that you see over here is the utility. So if you want to call an activity from a flow rule, then you choose this utility shape, and inside this, it will ask you to enter the activity name. And then start shape and end shape. So every flow in Pega will have one start shape and one end shape. Apart from these shapes, there are a few automations that you can see. So if you remember in the previous session from the case lifecycle or the case designer, I showed you how to add an automation shape. If you want, you can add it from the flow rule also. So if you want to add an automation smart shape from the flow rule, so you need to navigate to this path and then you can choose which automation shape you would like to add in your flow. Okay. And then there are some advanced shapes also that you can add in the flow. And this conversations and annotation we don't use much, but in regular projects or in a happy path scenarios, you will end up using any of the shapes from these categories. Okay. So coming back to the current flow that we have. So the flow name is enrollments underscore flow. The flow rule set is training 010102. So if you see, this is the rule set that my flow is currently saved in. And then if I have to see what specific details are there for each of these assignment, So for that, you can just right click on the shape. You can click on view properties. So this will give you the details of the first assignment on which we have clicked. So the assignment name or the label is enter student detail. What is this routing? So routing in Pega basically is also can be defined as a way of transferring work from one user to another. Okay, so this particular case, routing means who should complete this step. So who is going to work on this particular assignment, right? So there are multiple routing configurations that you can choose from. As of now, we will keep it to current operator. So whoever creates the case type, right, that person or that operator will be performing this assignment as well. So we have chosen current operator. Then the next section in the assignment properties is the service level agreement. So if you want to add a SLA rule, you can place it over here on the assignment shape. So this will be a assignment level SLA. If you go down further, so under the advanced category assignment details, you have a lot of other options. The important one that we use is the work status. So you can add a status on an assignment shape by coming to this place and giving the status work. Okay, if you have any local actions that you want to define on the assignment, so that can be done under the local actions category. If you have any notifications that you want to send out, then you can configure it over here under the notification category. If you want to add any tickets, so that also can be done and so on. Okay, so this is a brief about the properties that we can configure on the assignment shape in a flow rule in Pega. Okay, next, what is a flow action? So every assignment shape will have a outgoing connector. So if you want to see the flow action that is configured on any screen, so you have to open the outgoing connector and you have to see the properties. So again, I just right clicked on this connector and view properties. So if you can see, this opened the connector properties for me. And the main property that we want to see is the flow action name. So this is the flow action name. As of now, it is not created. So if I try to open it from here, it will not open the flow action rule. It will just open a new form for creating the flow action. Okay. If you want to do some property sets on this connector, that is also possible. And if you want to call a data transform, that also you can do it over here. So these are the different configurations that is available to us from the flow rule. Same is there on this shape also. So now let's get back to our case life cycle that we have. So let me refresh it once. Okay, so we just saw how a collect information step looks like. It contains an assignment, it contains a flow action, and then you can also add the status on the step itself. You can add SLAs also. So whatever configurations we saw from the flow rule, everything can be done from this case lifecycle designer also. How we can do that? So we can click on this step, and on the right hand side, you see there is a form that comes up. So again, the same things that I showed you from the flow rule, you can configure it from the designer also. So routing you can configure, status you can configure. If you want to provide any instructions for a particular assignment shape, right? Like what exactly needs to be done on the assignment shape. So that instruction text can be provided over here. If you want to add assignment level SLA, that can be configured from this goal and deadline tab, and you can select an custom SLA wherein you will define the timelines over here itself, or you can define the goal time, deadline time, and so on. Or if you have a SLA rule at backend, and if you want to call the SLA rule, so you need to select the existing SLA option. This will give you option to call one of your existing SLA rules from the step. Okay. So it is your choice, whichever way you are comfortable. Either you can update it from the flow rule, these configurations, or you can do it from the case designer also. Okay. Now the next shape that we have over here is the approve or reject smart shape that we have added. So there are a few important configurations that you need to configure whenever you are using a approval or rejection smart shape. So if you see on the right hand side, it will ask you what type of approval you want this particular step to perform. So there is two categories. Either it can be a single level or a cascading approval. So single level means only one person or one user will be able to approve or reject. Cascading means a series of approval needs to happen. Okay. So if you select single level, so it will ask you that what kind of routing do you want? Do you want this case to be routed to a specific user for approval, or you want to route it to a work queue for approval, or you have any business logic? So business logic is nothing but a decision rule that we will be calling in to derive to whom this particular approve or reject smart shape needs to be routed. Okay, so these are the three configurations that you can choose from. If you select specific user, it will ask you either if you have the username already available, you can key in over here, or if you want, you can choose from these options also. Okay, so this is the single level approval. Next, if you go to the cascading level approval, so again, cascading level approval can be into two categories. Either it can be reporting structure based or it can be authority matrix based. So reporting structure based it will ask you to choose how do you want the reporting structure to be. Either you want the reporting manager to be performing this approval or rejection, or you want the work group manager to be performing this approval or rejection. So that you can choose from these two options. And if you go with authority matrix, so here it will ask you for a decision table and a page list property and a approver property. So these three you need to configure, and based on these configurations, this shape will be routed to the concerned set of users in a cascading manner. That is what cascading approval is. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now moving to the next shape. So here if you see, I have used a weight shape. This clock icon that you see, right? This is a weight shape in Pega. So if I click on it and if I see what all properties we can configure on a weight shape. So weight shape can be again divided into two categories. Either it can be a case dependency or it can be a timer. So if you see weight type, there are two categories. By default, case dependencies selected. So what is meant by case dependency? So let's take an example where you have a parent case and then you have multiple subcases. Let's take an example of one training case and three child subcases. So if you have a scenario wherein you want the parent case or training case to wait until all the child cases are resolved, then you can select wait type as case dependency and you can just select this checkbox. So this will take care of ensuring that the training case will wait until all of its child cases are resolved. Only then the parent, that is training case, will move forward in its flow. So that is the case dependency. Okay. If you don't want to wait for all the child cases to be resolved, and if you want to wait only for specific cases to be resolved, that you can configure in this part. And not just resolved. If you want to wait for a different case type to reach some specific status, right? So that is also possible. So you can play around with these options and you can see what all configurations you can do using this properties panel that you have for the weight shape. The next type of weight shape is the timer. So here this is very straightforward. If you want this case to wait for a specific time duration, you can choose the timer and you can set the days, hours and minute, year, months and weeks. So this is possible. So for example, I have a requirement that I want this training case type to wait until the actual training is conducted. So how do I do that? So for that, I can choose the next option wherein I can key a date time property. Okay. So let's take, I will capture the time in Pega when my training is actually completed. And that property, I will configure it over here. So how this will behave is this training case will wait until the training has completed with the help of this reference property that we will configure. So this configuration I'll definitely be doing in later sessions. But just to get an overview of what all we can configure on a weight shape, this is pretty much to know about. Okay, the next smart shape that I have over here is the send email. So this is a very common use case. This is a very common smart shape that we use in Pega. So whenever you have a requirement to send out an email from a case type, right? So you use the send email smart shape. So again, some basic configurations that you can do on this shape. You need to tell to whom you want to send the email, so that you can select in the send to column. Then you can define a subject of your email. You can define a body of your email. So again, body is something, if you want, you can compose a custom body. Let me just give some values so that validation is not fired. If you want, you can compose some body by clicking on this compose link. It will open a pop-up for us. Hi, this is test email body. Okay, this is just a simple custom message that we have composed. And if you see below in italic, the message that I have just keyed in, right, that is down here. Or if you want to follow correspondence rule that contains the email message body, right? So for that, you need to select correspondence and it will ask you to select the correspondence template that you need to create at backend. Okay. And then if you want the attachments to be included, so this checkbox will help you. And if you want some audit comments to be placed in Pega whenever an email is sent out of its case, then you can select the audit note over here. You can type the audit note over here. Okay, so all these things you can configure on your send email smart shape. Okay, I hope I have explained all the steps or all the different type of steps that we can add in your case lifecycle, there is a huge list, but for the purpose of this use case, these are the shapes or the steps that we will be using. Now, very quickly, I will try to show you how to add the statuses on each of these stages. So let's try to add some statuses on each of these 3 stages. So for the enrollment stage, let me try to give the status as pending enrollment. Okay, so this status is not yet available in my system. So first I need to create it. So I will click on this create icon from here itself, and you will see that there is a form that opens up for me. Okay, so this is a field value. So py status work or the status work property that we create, right? That is a field value at backend. And whenever you try to create a new field value in Pega, it will ask you the field name. So for us, it is the py status work property. It will ask you for the rule set and for the class and the rule set. So all these things looks fine. Let's try to create it. And let us try to select the translate from and translate to same values. We are not using any translation as of now, so we'll keep the value same. And now if I come back and if I try to save it, right, so it gets saved. So my first stage, when the case comes in, the status will be set to pending enrollment. Now similarly, let me try to add the status on the next stage also. So let me call this as pending review. I'll quickly create it. Save. Come back, save. Okay, now let's try to run it and let's try to see if the status is getting set or not. So from the create new application. So if you see, it is setting the status correctly, pending enrollment. Okay, right now we are in enrollment stage and the status is getting set correctly. I don't have any sections or any flow actions defined, so that's why you don't see any UI. Now let's advance the case. So it goes into the next step that we have in the enrollment stage. So I added 2 assignments in the enrollment stage. So first one is done. Second one is currently there. So the case status is not yet updated because we have added a stage level status. Let's move forward in the flow so that it goes to the next stage. Now if you see, it goes to the next stage and the status that I keyed in, right? So that is reflecting. Now again, since it is a approve and reject smart shape, so this is the UI that you see. Once we will be configuring and adding details on our approval shape, right? So you can update the UI also, the section that you see over here, right? It can also be customized based on how we want the UI to look like. So this was a simple explanation of how do you add statuses. And like I told earlier, not just the status at the stage level, you can add status at each step level also. Okay, so that is also possible. There is a way to add the case status on each of these steps. If it does not give you an option to add the status, you can call the px update status OTB activity also from backend, from anywhere in the case lifecycle journey to update the status to any of your custom status value. So all these things are possible with respect to a case type. So I think whatever has to be covered with respect to the overview of a case type and how do we do the basic configurations of case type, that I have covered in both the sessions. If you like my videos and if you want to get the content on a specific topic, feel free to drop a comment to me and I'll try to cover the topics that you guys want me to explain. I'm keeping my videos very basic and I just try to give the overview of these each of the topics that we are covering, but there is still a lot that we need to learn as Pega developers, and I'll be trying to cover as much as possible in my upcoming sessions. Thank you so much for listening in and take care. All right, bye bye.